This is really an exciting day for us today on Oklahoma Gardening, because today is the day that we're going to introduce to you our new host for Oklahoma Gardening. You know, we've been on the air for 26 years, and this is the 9th host that we've had over those years. We've really had some really good people on here earlier on. We have looked everywhere actually for the best host for Oklahoma Gardening, and finally found that the one that we feel is the most qualified is really Steve Owens, who's our studio garden manager. And so Steve, I want to welcome you to Oklahoma Gardening.
Well, thank you very much.
As the new host. Steve has really gained my respect over the last several months and years, not only because I've been able to work with him as a volunteer before I started doing the guest host, but also because I know Steve's background. I know he has a true love for horticulture, a true plantsman, and a very, very knowledgeable person. So Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Vian, Oklahoma, over in the eastern part of the state. Gardened there in Vian, also gardened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and have been living here in Stillwater and gardening here for the last 10 years, and have really just enjoyed being associated with the program as the garden manager for the last 5.5 years.
Because I know you've been a real integral part of the show, not only in being sure that everything is ready for the show and doing some of our segments on the show. And Steve, I just really want to wish you the very best as the host of Oklahoma Gardening. We're here to help you and support you, and I'm looking forward to working with you as a volunteer. So welcome you again, and what are you going to do for us today?
Well, thanks a lot, Ray. I will start out my first segment as host of Oklahoma Gardening talking about caladiums. A very colorful foliage plant that it's not too late to plant, even here in June, is the caladium. Now, these plants have common names such as mother-in-law plant or angel's wings, but most people just call them caladiums. And they look like small, showy elephant ears. They have the same leaf shape, and they're in the same family, the Araceae. They come in colors such as red, pink, white, and green, or variations of those colors. And the ones that are available are usually highly variegated, so you may get all 4 colors even speckled across the leaves. The plants grow from tubers, kind of like a potato. And a tuber is just a compressed underground stem that has a lot of buds, kind of like the eyes of a potato. And the caladiums like growing in shaded areas, and it's best if they're kind of protected from our hot southwest winds. They like a soil that is rich in organic matter and that is well drained and kept moist but not wet. And I mentioned that the caladiums are just fine with being planted this time of the year, here in June. And with most of our summer annuals, we usually plant those from mid to late April. Well, the caladiums are much different in that mid to late May is a good time to plant these. They're tropical plants from the jungles of South America. And by waiting a little bit later in the year, this gives the soils in those shady parts of our garden time to warm up. Now, caladiums you can buy already potted up where the tubers have leafed out. They're usually available in 4-inch pots, kind of like this one right here. Or you can just buy the tubers. And in the garden centers, they will usually have these in boxes with a picture of the plant next to the box. And when you're buying the caladiums, it's a good idea to buy the ones that are the largest, and that will give you more area for leaves. And I'm going to show you a trick right here of how you can get your tubers to produce 3 to 5 times more leaves than if you just plant them. And this sounds kind of cruel, but you take a knife and you're going to cut the bud out. Or this is what we call scarring the eyes of the caladiums. And see, we just took that growing point out, kind of leaves like a little crater. And not only am I taking that large one out, but I'm going to go around and take all the side ones out as well. And you can see there's another little bulb coming off the side here. Also going to cut that one out. And any of the little bumps on the tuber, go ahead and just make a little crater and remove those. And what this will do, it will release that apical dominance, and all the little hidden buds that you can't see in the tuber will now be able to sprout and grow. And again, you will get 3 to 5 times as many leaves than if you were to just plant the tuber without doing that. Well, caladiums are foliage plants, and that means they're grown for their leaves, and occasionally they will flower, like this one right here is putting up a little flower. And it's kind of like the jack in the pulpit flower, or the peace lily, where you have a spathe and a spadix. And the plant really, if it produces the flowers, you don't want those on there. So what we're going to do, we're going to take that off. We're just going to reach in and just kind of pinch that off, and that will allow the bulb to keep producing more leaves also. Well, if you want to keep your caladium tubers through the winter, you can dig and store them, and we do this after we've had a light frost, but before we've had a heavy freeze. Just go out and dig the caladiums and kind of clean them up, let them dry out a little bit, and then we will pack them in dry perlite or dry sawdust. And when we're packing those together, we don't want any 2 tubers to come into contact with each other, because then they could start to rot. And just keep them at about 60 degrees throughout the winter time and plant them up again in the spring. So if you have room in your garden in a shady spot, it's not too late to plant a few caladiums.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.